This video is all about the conflict in the story. Conflict, usually when we think about conflict, we think about different types of conflict. There is person versus person conflict, where you've got two people who are butting heads, usually in an argument or some sort of situational fight. You've got person versus environment or nature. Environment slash nature. You can think of this like if you've seen Castaway, where the main character is on an island and he has to basically deal with the nature around him and fight to survive. Or if you ever read Hatchet by Gary Paulson, Brian is in a person versus environment and nature conflict. Now, bear in mind that most stories will have more than one conflict. There might be a central conflict and then a lot of side conflicts. That's okay. In Hatchet by Gary Paulson, there's person versus person. There's person versus self as well. Let's do that one next. Person versus self. That's when the main character is dealing with some sort of internal conflict, questioning themselves or who they are, trying to figure out their own identity. There's also person versus supernatural. This is when someone might be struggling against a god or a deity or a superhuman character. So, Superman or not Batman, but or for instance, the story of Job in the Bible, where Job is up against the devil. That's person versus supernatural. There's also person versus society. And this can be society in general, or it could also be a group of people. So for instance, if you're writing a story about bullying in school, or some sort of hate speech that somebody experiences, some sort of somebody being ostracized or kicked out because of their identifying factors or who they are, that could be a person versus society story. So these are the different types of conflict. Now, the key thing is that, like I said, every story has multiple conflicts, but stories should really have one central conflict. So in my story here, the central conflict is really person versus self. And I know that because right from the beginning, or at least one of the conflicts is person versus self. Right from the beginning, the main character is having a conversation with herself in her mind. Why am I doing this? Didn't it hurt enough the last time I was here? I'm going to hit enter there to make that stand out a little bit more. And throughout the story, we see that she keeps talking to herself. That can be a big indicator that this might be an internal struggle that the main character is having. Now, as the story continues, though, she does go back in time to an argument with her mother. And they go back and forth, yelling at each other in the car. This would be a person versus person conflict, where they have a fight in the car. But this is not the central conflict. This is a conflict in the story, and this conflict helps us understand the character better, but it is not the central conflict. Please bear in mind that the central conflict of the story will be the one that builds the theme. So if you want your theme to be based on a conflict between two people, make sure that that conflict is clearest in your story. For my story, I want my theme to have something to do with the struggle to go back to the past when the past is painful. So I want my central conflict to be internal, because she's struggling with whether or not to return to her past. Bear in mind that your reader will determine the theme. You don't have to write the theme into your story, but if your conflict is clear, if your conflict is strong, then the theme that comes out of the story will be directly related to that conflict. Thank you for listening. Make your conflicts strong and clear, and keep moving forward.